Yo, what's up YouTube, it's Yoj here. So today we've received some pretty big changes for Reina in regards to the latest Tekken patch of version 1.05. Some of those changes weren't really impactful too much in Reina in my opinion, in regards to stuff like 442 having more linearity. I still feel like the moves can still realign relatively well if you just delay the 442, meaning that the application of the move itself still pretty much, it pretty much remains the same. But she did suffer some pretty substantial nerfs in regards to the high crush ability from certain moves, like her full crouch down forward 4, or even like her onsoku 4. Those sadly do not, have a high crush property to it anymore. We'll take a better look at it in a second. The first thing I want to talk about is the 442 change. What they essentially did here is that they made 442 a little bit easier to step against most of the cast, because some characters were getting clipped way too often. So now, for example, if you eat some pressure like this, stepping it isn't really too hard at the moment. But do keep in mind, since this is a 4 forward like move, them delaying the 4 forward and doing it out of a wave dash still gives them that chance to realign with you and still clip you if you're a little bit slow on the step. So do keep that in mind. But other than that, 442 still remains the same in my opinion. It's still a really, really strong move that, it can be used as a approach tool, and you can still mix up your opponent to as much as you want. It's still quite the powerful move. You just got to be a little bit more smart about your placement about it and not just spam it all day, because if you're too quick to the draw, then, it becomes much more easier to step at this point. Next thing I want to cover is a pretty big change in regards to her down forward 1-2. So her down forward 1-2s has some property changes. Now instead of leaving them like face down, like in this position, for example, let me show it to you real quick. So before, after a down forward 1-2 heat dash, it left the opponent in this position where, which left them very vulnerable to a DD3 as a follow-up. But most of the time at the wall, it gave you a pretty significant wall combo, which was very, very abusive. So before, the down forward 1-2 left you in a position like this after the heat dash was activated, which only allowed Reina to get a follow-up with DD3 or single stomp if you want an easier follow-up, since the down forward 1 lifts as a contact roll, as you can see right there. That was a big change now. So now, instead of them leaving you in this position, now they leave you in a simple knockdown position. So now if you land the down forward 1-2 heat dash, it leaves you in a regular position, facing forward. No weird flip over thing going on over there, which would allow you now to connect down forward 1. That is now possible, since it wasn't possible before. Which is a pretty interesting change. Also, if you're near the wall, this is very specific and very technical to land, but it is possible to get some extra follow-ups here if you're near a wall, like a down back 2 pickup. But it's very, very specific to land, as you can see right there. I couldn't land it on the first try, but it'll take me a few tries to showcase it properly here. There we go. So it is possible to get something like that now, but it's very, very specific on when you're able to land it, that in my opinion, it's not really worth going for. But if you have the awareness of a cracked man, then by all means, try to go for it. But, stuff like that, it becomes possible now due to the knockdown change. It's also worth noting that if you land down forward 1-2 at the wall, and you actually go for the just frame thumb bender, you are still vulnerable to toe kicks here. This is a guaranteed punish from the opponent's side. So please keep that in mind as you are using this near the wall. In my opinion, using this at the wall, doing down forward 1 is only going, if you want the damage, then by all means, go for it. But in some situations, it might be more worth just going for Oki here. So going for the War God kick might be much more worth it here, so that you're able to mix up your opponent afterwards. You do lose some damage, but the Oki makes it worth it if you're going for like a kill situation. Now for the next significant change that Reina has received in regards to some pretty huge property change, is now that for certain moves that used to have a crouching property, those crouching properties has been removed. Some of them made sense, so like her full crouch down forward 4, it had some situations where it was kind of a little bit too good. I understand that they want you to utilize full crouch down forward 3 more often now, which is fair. Since, if you want to go for a high crouch property, they want to make the risk a lot more significant, since this move by itself is -17 on block. So if you want to go for like a high crush launcher, then they want you to utilize this move a lot more than full crouch down forward 4, which is fine in my opinion. So some moves that included the properties change is, it's a long list of moves that I will leave right here. So among the moves that were changed from a crouching to a standing property, it was 3+4/4. As you can see right here, it's a much easier time just jab checking them for whiffing that move. The same also applies for her down for 3+4/4. Jabbing in here has become a lot more consistent. So in regards to the 3+4/4 change, since it also receives some standing properties now, if you have a quick keep out counter hit launcher that's also a high, it's now way more useful to use as a whiff punish against these whiff strings. As you can see right there. King can get all of that. That's just my basic combo, but you can get a lot of damage out of it if you're like on point with it. But one of the biggest changes that she's received is her Onsoku 4 also losing its high crush properties. So a common string that Reina players were loving to run before was the 4-2 cancel into Onsoku 4. And this before was able to lose to, was able to go under the jab, which gave Reina a huge heat engager. This was one of her strongest tools to use Onsoku 4 for. But now, jabbing pretty much becomes an easy check for it. And this loses even on hit. So if you get hit by the 4-2, you can still jab check her for it for the most part, which is quite significant in regards to Reina. So the next move that she received the crouch status removal of was her Ohen stance. So if you react to the second roll of her stance here, so as you see here rolling on the floor, if you jab too early, it'll still not work. But the moment she's in the second roll phase, as you can see right there, she's now vulnerable to jabs again. It's a little bit awkward to do, but the crouch status removal is there. And this also applies to her charge version, which is a guard break. But instead of, reacting to the second stance of the roll, now you gotta react to the third roll. So 1, 2, 3, as you see right there. Boom, boom, boom. This will not work if you jab too early, similar to the non-charge version. But please keep that in mind. So in regards to these changes as well, Reina can also access her crouch ability from Ohen as well. So in this case, the jab will not interact with her at all. In my opinion, it's still safest to just check Ohen with a mid check. Otherwise, you don't really risk much else here. Just keep it simple, stick to the mid check. But if you still want to go for jab checks, then by all means, just keep the risk in mind. Now, the last thing I wanted to cover was her full crouch down forward 4. So before, she had a pretty powerful high crush off of it, which allowed her to OS certain strings like Jin's 4-4-3, 1-2, Zen 1 string. So if you duck this before and you input a full crouch down forward 4, before it would just go under the high, which essentially allowed you to option select the whole 4-4-3 string that Jin had to offer. If you just duck and you full crouch down forward 4 here, but as you can see right now, I'm getting clipped. This makes it so that we need to utilize full crouch down forward 3 way more often now, just to have their options, or just to have our option select back. So essentially, Bandai's vision of this is that they want to make this move way more relevant. So they want you to utilize full crouch down forward 3 in more ways than before now. Since before, full crouch down forward 4, was kind of the only launch you really needed from full crouch, but now they want you to utilize full crouch down forward 3 more. Now, the full crouch down forward 4 nerf does impact her in some matchups now due to the high crush removal property. So if you're playing Reina and you would like to use full crouch down forward 4 as a duck punish against certain strings, you need to be careful against the strings that are very active. So for example, in Elisa's case, her chainsaws. So if you punish too early there, for example, if you see me try to go for full crouch down forward 4 too early there, you can still get clipped. So you need to either delay your timing, you delay your punish here, which would still act as a punish, as you can see at the bottom left. Or if you want to play it safe, now we can use full crouch down forward 3 for a much more consistent punish. You also don't run the risk of getting randomly clipped from a very active string. So in regards to active high strings, for example, we have Diligent Laser over here. If you're also a little bit too early on your punish here, as you can see right there, if you try to punish too early, you can still get clipped. This is why full crouch down 4-3 became way more useful now, since we can just use that as our main high crouch punish tool, which makes the move overall way more relevant now. So the last thing I wanted to cover was her 4-4-2-3 change. So Reina had an issue before where some characters were able to actually backdash or sidestep after her 4-4-2 on block into Sen 3, which is the homing high. Some people were actually able to backdash on block, which was not intended by the developers. So now people are no longer able to backdash it, but instead are also able to parry it. So for some reason, her Sen 3 had like invincibility frames. So people that tried to Sabaki before or like parry it, for example, were not able to. But now they adjusted it so that now it's also parryable by pretty much almost everyone in the cast that has a kick parry or like a kick Sabaki, for example. It is now possible by those who have a kick parry or a kick Sabaki, whatever the case may be. Yeah, that about wraps up most of Reina's changes in this patch. I think overall she's still a very strong character, but losing the high crouch properties on some moves like her 4-2 Onsoku, for example, that's really going to impact her in regards to like making this stance way more useful. Now it's kind of hard to land this move in general. So even like going for like a parry here, like if you guys didn't know, Onsoku also had a parry that you can also like fish for. So as you can see right there, Onsoku, if you ever access it manually, you do have a active parry out of it, which you can just do a crouch cancel 1-1-2 to get your follow-up out of it. As you can see right there, that is actually guaranteed. But even on a delayed Onsoku, for some reason jabbing here, you can't really fish with the parry at all here. It's really strict timing. So the only way I kind of found for you to actually deal with people jabbing after your 4-2 is either finish the string. As you can see, you have a mid follow-up there, which doesn't really give you anything on counter hit, just plus frames to work with. Or you can just go into a wave dash cancel and just go under the high. So that's more so the mind games you'll be running for the most part after 4-2. But yeah, that about wraps up everything changes for Reina. Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two. Hopefully I made it more clear for you guys to understand. And yeah, if you guys enjoy these type of videos, please let me know. I'm still new to making these type of videos. I'm trying to make it as good as I can. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Have a good one. Peace.